at 7 p.m. Try to get a roll call, please.
Trustee Walker,
Present.
Trustee Gallegos,
Here.
Trustee Tejada, Vice President Slavidini, here, President Lee.
Here. Item 7, approving the agenda. Any changes to the agenda this evening, Ms. Presta?
There are no changes.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda? All those in favor? Aye. All right, minutes, board meeting minutes from June 6, 2023. No changes, I'll take a motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Okay, 4-0 with an abstention. You? All right, and reporting out of closed session on a 5-0 vote, the board approved the dismissal recommendation for the closed session item. All right, 10A board report. Start with Mr. Walker.
Board report. I saw other board members at the county by a couple Saturdays ago. I was going to take a little bit with my son. Also, I followed you with the feedback last week at the middle school and convention. Thank you. I'll repeat this one. I saw all of you at the beam signing at the new adult school site, and it was nice to. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Shred. I was also at the beam signing, which was pretty cool. And the student advisory has informed us that they have around 10 applicants, I think, they're looking to get interviewed for the new student advisory board. So I think they're going to be doing that in July. Yeah, pretty sure it's coming up actually. So that's pretty cool to see a lot of interest in that. So hope everything goes well. And awesome.
So Mr. Gallegos and I actually attended the San Mateo County Fair Pacific Islander Day as the guests of Pacific Islands Together. As you know, the executive director is Serena Mayapua, who works in our district. I also attended with Ms. Presta, Jefferson Elementary, Superintendent Bernie Vidalis's retirement, or as I like to say, graduation. You've known him forever. Mm-hmm. I met him when I was a brand new parent in the district in 2004. And it's nice it's nice to welcome the new superintendent, Sandy McCulloch, who I've known in the district for a while as well. And it was spectacular to do the beam signing at the new adult head and district offices. Boy, I see the structure, but when we're all there and celebrating this, it's really great. Just repeating some of the same things. Thank you for everyone that came out to Pride Celebration. My partner Dana organizes the Pride Celebration for the district, and I decided, I need to learn to not talk in meetings sometimes, but I was like, it'd be cool to have a parade, and then it ended up with me organizing the parade. So it was the first time I ever organized a parade, and it was so nice. Just to see everyone delight in it. And it's the first county pride parade that we've ever had. So I'm hoping that next year we can march in it too, Jefferson district. But it was a great event. And then of course I loved being at our new district office adult education site and seeing actual structural pieces built up after all of the unforeseen crazy weather that we had. So hugely grateful to our architect and all the people on the construction site for all of the work they did to get us this far. And of course, I'm happy that we're finally getting, this is not a great place to make your first introduction to new students and families, to have them come here. I know when I remember when I came here and I moved to the district and I walked in this building, I was like, you know, what is this district like? Like, this is the district office. So I'm glad that we're going to have a place that reflects who we are in the district, and especially it's right near Jefferson Elementary. So I'm very excited. Thank you.
Just like you all, good to see everybody at the adult ed and district office beam signing. I think, you know, the highlight really wasn't so much the signing, but to be able to see the look of joy on our staff's faces, especially, you know, knowing that how, you know, difficult it has been to teach in this building and to serve our students in this building. So the look of joy that they had sort of identifying where their future classroom was going to be in the adult ed building was actually a lot of fun. And of course, and for our team that, you know, our district office team, knowing that they will have fantastic workspaces as well. And I'm looking forward to the fact that when we approve the budget and LCAP this time next year, we will be sitting in a new boardroom. Fingers crossed, right? So there we go. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Excited that this is the last time we do this particular item in this building. All right. Ms. Presta.
Thank you. I just want to second all of what you said. Lots of exciting things this past week. And the only thing that I really want to report on is summer school. Dr. Sterling Key is doing just a really excellent job as summer school principal. So I kind of just want to call it out in a public way. He's vice principal at Westmore in the regular school year, and he applied for the principal position. And he's working with Dr. Marenko, who has done summer school in the past. And so he has been really grateful to learn from Dr. Marenko and also from our executive cabinet. But honestly, he's kind of blown it out of the park. He gives me very regular updates. There, you know, as in any high school situation, things happen that can be a little hard to deal with, and he's dealt with them beautifully. And so I just wanted to kind of publicly say that he's doing a great job, and I'm just really cheering him on.
Fantastic. All right. EFT 1481 report, Ms. Casey.
Good evening, everyone. Since the last time I was here, I think a lot of the same activities that people have been involved in. Union-wise, we've been doing some MOUs and side letters and working on all sorts of things that come up and that don't get called out. I won't list them here. And I will be traveling to Southern California for Union Summer School, which will be learning for me to know more about the budget and both the union and the district budget, so that we can make better decisions and, you know, be able to talk about it with more knowledge. So that's what is happening coming up, and happy summer. But, you know, I'll be in classes all next week. So that'll be it. But I'm available. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a COVID-19 update? Ms. Butler? No COVID update.
No.
Okay, great. All right, moving on to consent. I have a motion to approve consent.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Your second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Fantastic. Moving on to item 13, public comment. Do we have any blue cards this evening?
We do not.
Fantastic. So let's go on to the first discussion item, item 14A1, graduation cords. And so let's start with that, Ms. Presta.
Thank you. Yes. So I believe it was, I know I'm trying to think of your title now. Clerk Rosie Tata. Like, she's got a title. That had this idea. So Rosie, why don't I turn it over to you?
Yeah, so I know that we had talked about recognizing our student advisory council members at graduation, and we thought about maybe recognize them verbally, but I thought, why not have cords? But then you have to coordinate with the schools what cord colors are not being used at that school. So I thought maybe we should have bash instead that says student advisory council. And then, come up with, if they've served for a year or something like that. Idea.
Yeah.
So similar to like the Black Student Union, where they have the, okay, yeah, I think that's a good idea. Those that we just provided ourselves.
Yes.
Just provided us.
And I think each school does something different. So like, I know some schools have lots of things and some schools don't. And so of course we'd have to work with the schools, but I think it's a stash.
Oh, you mean the stole?
The stole.
The
stole.
Special stole. Yeah. Yeah.
Thing around your neck.
Yeah. The thing around here, stole.
We can come up with the color.
Okay. You guys, if you guys are good with that direction, we will make it
I'm
happen.
with it, yeah.
Yeah.
Really cool idea.
Okay, great.
That'd be great.
Very good. Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thanks. Great idea.
Mhm.
All right. Item 14B1, the local indicators presentation, Ms. Baca.
Good evening, President Lee. Tonight I will be co-presenting with Dr. Robinson, so I'm moving over. No, Jake doesn't want us to. Do whatever Jake said. While Mr. Meyer is pulling the presentation, I just want to remind you last year, Dr. Robinson and I were sitting here and she was pregnant and her baby's almost 1 year old. Very exciting.
Time goes by quickly. Don't lie.
All right, so good evening. Tonight I will be presenting on the local indicators for the California School Dashboard as required by the State Board of Education. So the State Board of Education adopted state and local indicators to measure school district and school site performance in regard to state priorities. In January of this year, I presented the dashboard results from the state indicators, and tonight I will be presenting on the local performance indicators. So the requirement, I guess, keep this mic, I don't know. So to meet the requirements, we must annually measure the progress of the indicators, report it to the School Board of Trustees in conjunction with the LCAP adoption. And finally, we have to use the State Board Education self-reflection tools. All right, so tonight I will be reporting on the areas of basic services and conditions, parent and family engagement, school climate, and access to broad course of study. And Dr. Robinson will be presenting on the implementation of state standards. So the first one looks at misassignments of teachers. And misassignment means that a teacher is put in a position where the educator does not hold a credential or a permit, a waiver, or an appropriate authorization. So this data is from 21-22. It's a snapshot in October. It's called the Census Day, first Wednesday of October. And at that time, we had 5 teachers that were misassigned to teach English learners and 38 total teacher misassignments. So the funny thing about the misassignments for English learners is that this was actually a 7% decrease from the previous year. However, there was a, not 7%, 0.7. And there was a 0.7 increase in the total teacher misassignments. But overall, we are still not doing a bad job. And I want to, honor and recognize the HR department for working really, really hard in making sure that our teachers are properly authorized. The next one is access to instructional materials. So all of our students, 100% of them have access to standards aligned instructional materials. And finally, for facilities and conditions, we use the facilities inspection tool, and all schools are in good standing or better.
Oh, that's me already. Hello. So this is a self-reflection tool. So just in full transparency, I rated us in each of these things. It's like the Lori reflection tool. I spend some time in my office and I kind of take stock of how we progress throughout the year in some of these categories. And so this first one takes a look at, just the curricular frameworks that have been adopted. Math just really continues to shine under the leadership of Kristen Ashford, our district-wide TOSA for mathematics. She just really, the whole crew, a lot of the department heads, Mike Rubin at Jefferson, Rebecca Ernhold at Oceana, Nicole Polo at, Westmore. Gino has been co-doing with Javier Sanchez over at Terra Nova. They really have just coalesced into a district team that they've gone beyond just in implementing standards, and they've really looked at like lesson studies. They get excited, and very dorkily so, about like thinking classroom PDs that they all go to. It's really, really great to watch. And that's not to say that the other areas haven't. They just haven't had quite like that level where I would say like mathematics is just sustaining right now. And continuing, always getting better. We're never done. But some of the other areas just need to get there. History made great strides this year under the leadership of Asra Ciudin. Sorry, speaking too quickly too. And just did a very great job with both ethnic studies and implementation of our social science standards. And the next generation science standards, the only reason I rated that one a little bit lower is we have done really great work in biology, but we've had some turnover and some different assignments in chemistry and in physics. Physics is a really challenging credential to staff, just quite frankly. And so there's been some turnover, and the group hasn't exactly like coalesced yet, but we had a really great training and district PLC for the chemistry teachers in spring. And so I'm looking forward to continuing that work with them next year. This is more looking at instructional materials. And here I just, each one of these curricular areas are in a different place in terms of adopting their instructional materials. I'm hoping that history, social science will kind of get a nudge up next year as they've just reviewed and adopted the TCI materials for all world history, US history, and Gov Econ. But yeah, English continues to review community responsive novels, and worked with our community responsive education group that led the teachers in the ethnic studies work to look at an ethnic studies framework towards teaching novels in our English classroom. So excited that they're continuing that work. So again, just I feel like this is, I'm going to end up repeating myself on a lot of these, where the areas of things are. I want to just call out this last slide about professional learning. We continue to, I think, be best when we're offering kind of our whole group professional learning opportunities. We really have stayed focused with our 6th year of, training teachers of cohorts of teachers in our constructing meaning, which is like our literacy-based training. We just completed the 2nd year of both grading for equity and a cohort of teachers who have gone through ethnic studies pedagogy and universal design for learning, 2 PLCs to go through that, and that'll continue into next year. Where we can always do a better job, I think we're always looking for ways to do this, is to really meet the individual needs of teachers and get them to sort of offer more things to individually explore their own learning and things that are targeted. They do that through instructional coaching. I know Ms. Baca approves quite a bit of individual requests for professional learning. But I think in terms of just offering those individual opportunities as a district, we can always get better. So that's the implementation of standards.
All right, the next part is about parent and family engagement, and this has 3 parts. The first one is building relationships between school, staff, and families. The second one is building partnership for student outcomes. And then the third part is about seeking input for decision making. So of all the three parts, I feel like building relationship is the area where we are much farther along as a district. We've improved our intake process for our students learning English. We have more documents that are translated. Our board meetings are now interpreted. And in fact, we had an interpreter for Oceana's graduation, like the last graduation. So I need to ask Principal Torres what she thought, and maybe something that we continue. And during the immigration resource fair night, we had students like Edward Fletcher, who served as an interpreter. So I would like to utilize more, students and teachers in events like this. And as far as parent attendance, I attended the Students Learning English Awards Night at Jefferson, and there were over 200 parents and students. And I swear we ran out of food. It was really scary. Twice, but Miss Enriquez was able to call that pizza plate like fast. And so I feel like we're doing, a steady job in getting engagement and building relationships with our families, and has improved from years past. However, the second part, this is building partnerships, and this is where we hold like more informational sessions for our parents. So actually the LCAP that you're approving tonight, this is one of the focus areas, is that we want to build the knowledge of our parents and guardians in order to improve this. And the last part of this is about seeking input. So we have quite a few advisory groups. So we have the District Advisory Committee, English Language Advisory Committee, Special Ed Parent Advisory Committee, but attendance has always been low. We've tried both in person, online, change the time, change the date, offer food, but the attendance is not consistent. And so what I'm hoping, and my guess, is that this area would improve as long as we continue building that relationship and building that foundational knowledge for our parents and guardians. Because as a parent, it's really hard to give input if you don't know what LCAP stands for. So this will probably be the last area in this area where, it's like the last one where we will improve. The next one is about school climate. So we use the California Healthy Kids survey for this, and we have tracked 3 themes from the survey. The first survey is about caring adults, and this was, just to give you context, this was in 21-22, so last year, and we surveyed our 9th grade and 11th grade students. And 21-22 is the first year after distance learning. So you will see a trend and a pattern of decrease in the results of these surveys. So for the caring adults in school, there were 3 questions that were asked together to come up with a percentage. The first one is, there's a teacher or some adult from my school who really cares about me. And then they either respond of, this is pretty much true or very much true. And then there's a teacher who notices when I'm not there. And then there's a teacher or some other adult who listens to me when I have something to say. So with this, 51% of our 9th grade students feel that this is pretty much true or very much true. And this is a decrease from the previous year by 7%. And for grade 11, it was 58%, and there was a 1% decrease. And then I've also indicated the ethnic rate breakdown for this question as well. The second theme is about perceived safety in school. And I just want to know that this is more than really just violence. It's also psychological and physical safety. So the question that was asked was, how safe do you feel when you're at school? And 56% of the 9th graders said that they feel very safe or safe. And this is a decrease, 13% from the previous year. And then 11th graders, 58% felt safe, and this is a 17% decrease from 2021. And the last question is about academic motivation. And again, there's a series of questions like I try hard to make sure that I am good at my schoolwork. I try hard at my schoolwork because I am interested in it. I work hard to try to understand new things when I'm doing my schoolwork. And I am always trying to do better in my schoolwork. So with this, for ninth graders, 62% agree on this, which is the same percentage as the year before. But for the 11th graders, it was a 5% decrease, and 55% said that this is, they agree, or strongly agree. Now, the last one is access to broad course of study, and we use the A through G rate for this priority. And I just want to say that the very first time that I did the LCAP, our goal was at 37%. And I remember Miss Salahuddin saying, I just want to get to 50. Just want to get to 50. I know, I got to 50. And I have a strong feeling that for the next year, this graduating class is even going to be more. Okay. So it's an increase from the year before. And it's an increase in almost all of our students group, except for students with disabilities. That's something I really need to look into, because overall it's 0% at all of the school sites. This is the breakdown by ethnicity. As you can see, again, it is an increase for all of our ethnic groups, except for our 2 or more. And this is the breakdown for our school site. I just really want to highlight Jefferson High School, because I remember last year too, this was when John Harrigan was approved to be the principal, and he was hearing this for the very first time. And he saw 34%. And then the year later, it had gone up to 49.2%. So all of the schools are doing quite well. We need to check in with Miss Carey and her instructional team and her group, and trying to figure out, what was happening at Terra Nova, and, and what trend are we seeing. And that is pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments or questions for Ms. Bach or Dr. Robinson?
I have one.
Yes.
Okay, so is it true that A through G is the courses that California state schools want people to complete before they attend?
Yes, sorry for not explaining that. But A through G is the set of courses that students have to take to be eligible to a California State University system or the University of California system. It doesn't apply to private schools. Some private schools may have a more stringent requirements, but generally this is our baseline to make sure that our students are prepared for college. So A are all of the courses for social science, B is English, C is math, and then so on.
Any other comments or questions?
Thank you. So I have a few comments. First, just on this safety, just feeling what are the ways that we're going to do a deeper dive on this question? And I know post-COVID has been interesting in all areas. I went on a flight and I was like, oh my God, what's wrong with everybody? Calm down. But so I know that plays a little piece into it, but I also, this is low. I don't want more than half or almost half of students feeling like they're not safe on campus. And then I know looking at it disaggregated, it fluctuates even more. So just wanting to hear, I know some of this is in the LCAP, but specifically what we're doing for this piece. And then the second thing on school climate. This was the other piece that, not alarming, but also, just a little more than half of our students feeling motivated. So what can we do to make sure that people, I think that ties into if you don't feel safe, you don't feel motivated. I know we've done a lot of work to make sure like students aren't hungry. There's other resources that are available. And I don't want to put more on our plate what we can provide, but just is there a way that we can hear more from students about motivation? And then I was extremely happy with the AG. When I read the presentation, I was like, oh my God, I wasn't expecting this, especially since there was so much conversation about what was lost, right? And really questioning some of the decisions that we made around COVID, which, I stand by to this day. But this also shows that, we're okay. It's okay. And that there's work that needs to be done, but the level of rhetoric that was used and talked about what decisions that were made, I think was uncalled for. So I'm glad that we have some data to show the progress that has been made, especially in this area. A to G is really important to me because everyone doesn't need to go to college. I know we talk about this as the college, what you need to do to get into college. This just to me is like you had a well-rounded education. And that even if you don't go to college, you need these skills to get a job just about anywhere. So the more students we have enrolled here, the more we live up to the promise that we have on all of our flyers and everything. So thank you, and thank everybody for the work that was done here. And I hope that we can continue moving forward. And I think, the work that we've done previously in the LPAC is showing here. So those were the comments that I had. And then lastly, I don't know if there's a way I know that a lot of this survey is done by another group, but finding a way that we can disaggregate Asian. I mean, to me, we have such a large and diverse Asian population, and then Pacific Islanders. So I don't know if there's a way that we can do our own survey that asks similar questions, but lets it disaggregate ethnic groups even more. That's all I have.
So I want to just address two of the things that you said, because I wholeheartedly agree. The climate, the idea that 50% of our kids don't feel safe at school is absolutely unacceptable. And so actually just earlier today, Ms. Baca and I were talking with somebody about a pilot program, and we haven't talked to anybody else about this yet, but a pilot program where for a way for students to let us know how they're feeling at school, which is sort of a first step. And then we can address some of those issues. So that's one thing that we're doing. And then certainly at the different school sites, there, like for instance, at Terra Nova, Ms. Carey has put a proposal together to work with PCRC to train students there to work with other students. So there are germinations of things sort of at different sites. And, we know the work at Jefferson that they've done there. But I'm trying to look at it too, more as a district-wide, something that a tool or way for us to get in. Ms. Baca and I were in schools meeting with kids, and that's great, but it's not nearly enough. So we're talking about ways to kind of get the student voice so that we actually hear about how they're feeling so we can address those. I don't know if you want to say anything else.
No, those were the ones that I was thinking about, that each of the school site is thinking about how to address the school climate because it's different. We have the goal, we have the vision, but how that happens at each of the school sites will be a little different.
Right. And that makes sense. Yeah. Like I completely agree.
Yeah.
And I just to add quickly that one of the things, I know I only touched on it briefly, but I'm really excited about the work that we're starting with Universal Design for Learning, which in general, I mean, like it does speak to like comprehensive things about instruction, but one of the major areas of it is engagement. But really interrogating what engagement means, and at the very base level, that it's not just attention, but it's commitment, it's motivation, it's value, it's a sense of belonging, it's all of those things. And I know that that's a site instructional focus for a lot of our leadership teams. And I hope that we just have a lot of time to dive into exactly what that means, because I think it's not just the climate that exists in the hallways and at lunch, but I think it's the climate that exists and is replicated in all of the different classrooms, because that's really where students are spending most of their time during the day.
And then I'm also wondering, like, what, we talked before about the counselors and how they counselors engage with students and checking in with them to, even with my own children, having a conversation about what this all means post graduation. And it's hard to get them to like CPAC, tomorrow because they're young kids, but helping students understand the value of what they're doing now and how it applies later. I think it'd be helpful because and in the work that we're doing to move away from grades, because I know one of the things that stood out to me was hearing so many AP students say, well, since we're not taking the test, it doesn't really matter. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, you're learning so many valuable things. And but we're playing a part in enforcing grades are the end all be all. It's not really about what you're learning. So I don't know if we can have conversations about how real world implications that we're seeing right now about people not learning how to learn and learning some basic core facts about how America works, how we all work and run together. So, a really good education is extremely important. And I don't think we talk about that enough.
Any other comments?
No, I was just looking at the Healthy Kids survey and just, I guess, kind of just mulling over how when they survey the kids, the options that they're giving them to choose, say for safety, it says feel safe or very safe. And those are the two choices they get for
Five options. So, very safe, feel safe, and then neither, and then unsafe.
Oh, okay. I'm just looking, because I was just looking at the document they provided here. It doesn't really say all that. It just has safe or very safe.
We don't give them the option to say they're unsafe.
So all the other ones felt like they either are neutral or disagree or not disagree. So it's like the opposite side. And that's the one that we are, talking about, like, how do we ensure that the other half feels safe?
I just want to add, going back to A through G, the fact that we're making it more and more difficult for kids not to be able to take an A through G level course, the fact that our course offerings have expanded and the work that I commend you for the work you guys have done to actually increase the number of A through G offerings, and that whether it's CTE or otherwise. So it's really great that kids can just pick the class that they want to take and, oh, hey, it's actually A through G. So it's really great. So thank you for all the hard work that's gone into that as well to really improve our course offerings. Okay. So if nothing else, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to 15A1, approval of the 23-24 local control and accountability plan. Do you want to stay there, Ms. Baca?
I forgot to speak. So before you is the 23-24 local control and accountability plan. From the public hearing 2 weeks ago, the only thing that was changed was that I added the equity survey for both staff, students, that mirrors each other. So with that, it is my recommendation that the board approve the 23-24 local control and accountability plan.
Is there a motion to approve?
Move that we approve the 23-24 LCAP.
Okay.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Item 15B1, Service Tracker Memorandum of Understanding. Ms. Lujan.
Good evening, everyone. Before you this evening is a memorandum of understanding between the district and AFT 1481. In the spring, our case managers were informed that they would need to implement service trackers. Some of our case managers were a little familiar. Many of our teachers have not used the program. So in recognition of all of their efforts to implement this program quickly, we'd like to offer them a one-time, not precedent-setting $750 stipend. And I welcome questions.
Questions or comments? And if not, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve a one-time stipend for special education managers and the use of service tracker for spring 2023.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. 15B2, Family Medical Leave Act update side letter. Ms. Lujan.
Good evening again. This side letter provides clarification that our certificated employees are exempt from the 1,250 hour requirement for FMLA. While we recognize they work many more hours than 1,250 when we look at what they're compensated for, if we look at just hours, they wouldn't be eligible. So we want to make sure there's language to ensure that they are eligible for FMLA.
If no comments or questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve the Family Medical Leave Act side letter.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. The bereavement update side letter, item 15B3. Ms. Lujan.
Hello again. AB 1949 updated language around bereavement, ensuring that employees were eligible to have access to 5 days of bereavement. So the side letter captures the changes to the legislation.
Very motion to approve the bereavement side letter.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And then lastly, under HR 15B4, job description, behavioral health manager 2, Ms. Lujan.
Hello. The Daly City Youth Health Center would like to add the position of behavioral health manager. This person or this employee would provide supervision and training to clinical trainees. They are hosting quite a number of interns and they have budget to add a position and would like to do so.
Is there a motion to approve the job description?
Move to approve the job description for the behavioral health manager number 2 for the Daly City Youth Health Center.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
All right. Item 15C1, 2324, budget adoption, Ms. Van Rapport.
Thank you, President Lee. Good evening, everyone. Before you tonight is the proposed 2023-2024 budget for our school district. There is a minor change to Fund 63, just in the Daly City Health Center components of Fund 63. It's very minor, and other than that, it's the same as what was considered during the public hearing 2 weeks ago. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Any questions or comments from Ms. Van Rapport? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the budget for 23-24.
Move to approve the 23-24 budget adoption.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Great. And then 15C1 or C2, excuse me, the service and consultant contract approval for SSA Landscape Architects Incorporated. Ms. Van Rapport.
Thank you, President Lee. Tonight, SSA Landscape Architects are here to explain the findings of their feasibility study for the renovation of the Terra Nova High School baseball and softball fields. And after their explanation of what they found in the feasibility study, the board will have the opportunity to approve an agreement with SSA Landscape Architects to move on to the next steps. And so I will turn it over to Ms. Stephanie Phillips, who will introduce our guest.
Hi, good evening. I'd like to welcome Christian, who's for SSA Landscape Architects. He was highly recommended from Half Moon Bay, who had similar issues as us.
Oh, not a good sign. Wow.
Oh my gosh. Clap back in.
Little triggering.
They had very similar issues as us with drainage issues. Seem to have been taken care of.
It's gonna be okay.
Yeah, just, I know. Why did I just like, I feel like I want to walk out of the room. Without further ado, I'll get off the hot seat and let Christian get on the hot seat. I'm gonna let you, we didn't really pregame, but I'm gonna let you go ahead and control the slides.
Okay, we'll just see how this goes here. My name's Christian Harris. I'm associate principal at SSA Landscape Architects. We're a firm that's been around since 1989. We're located in Santa Cruz, California. And we are a full service landscape architecture firm. And one of the many things that we do is design of synthetic turf sports fields. So we've done this for school districts throughout the Bay Area and Central and Northern California. Stephanie approached us and mentioned that they have an existing natural grass baseball and softball field at Terra Nova High School that she was interested in pursuing to transition to synthetic turf. So we met out on site and suggested we do what's called a phase 0. It's essentially a feasibility study. The intent of phase 0 is to help understand what program elements would be, sorry, if I skip I'm just going. So
it's okay. I'll try to keep up with you and like backtracking a little bit, but we'll go.
But the intent is really just to understand what program elements would be included in a project like this. Stephanie did have a survey conducted, a topographic survey, so we know how big the site is, and we can actually put field templates and the actual size elements onto that survey. This allows us to assign rough order of magnitude costs to the plan, and so we know how big is big. So on a project like this, sometimes you come into it and are we talking 2 million, 3 million? It's just hard to say, but when you can actually look at real square foot costs, historical costs for other projects that we've done, reach out to manufacturers to price certain items so we can really put together a reasonably close approximation of what we think the project will cost. Now, based on that, it's intended to be used as a decision-making tool. So we can say, okay, well, that's more than we intended, or we'd actually like to include these other additional items. And so that's the general idea. Based on our initial study and with contingencies and everything else included, we came up with a cost for $7.7 million, which is a very large number. I think for perspective, one way to look at this is a football field is traditionally about 80,000 square feet. The field that we're talking about is about 300,000 square feet. So it's about 2.5 times the size of a football field, which helps lead to that cost. It's just a lot of square footage. In terms of programming, we've been told that some of the current user groups had some concerns about any changes to the field and their ability to use that field. We don't get involved in programming. That's really a district element. We build it and they come, just to use that statement. So I would say that currently there are 2 active fields in that middle tier at Terra Nova High School. We'd be adding a 3rd field. So I don't think anything that we would do would preclude the current use. So that's up for the district to decide how it's currently used. So I don't think that changes that per se. The next steps and things that we would want to do. See if
You want me to go ahead?
I've just been battling, so I got to see where I'm at.
Yeah, let me just, okay.
Ms. Phillips? Have you seen closer to them, both of you? You have interpreters, that's why.
Oh, I forgot about that. Okay. Okay, well, should I go to the next slide?
Maybe I could continue the conversation about the current user group. So I did listen to the board meeting from the previous meeting where those issues were brought up. And Stephanie and I talked about the current field, which I think is the softball, using it on the lower tier, the lowest tier. That could be converted to an under 14 use for baseball. Part of the problem, though, is that the outfield isn't big enough for that use. So I think what we propose, we don't necessarily propose touching it as part of this project, so that field can do whatever it needs to do. In terms of that 14 and under or under 14 group, it probably is too shallow of an outfield for them. So I think that they would use the upper fields.
And I did reach out to Kumar last week and spoke to him and started to have a dialogue with him. He's actually going to go put a tape on that lower field, because ideally, if we could turn that lower field over to them, that would be, I think, a win for them and us.
What does put a tape in?
Put a tape measure on it.
Oh, he's gonna measure it.
He's going to measure it and see if they can make that lower field
Okay.
work. So we're talking.
Next slide. I think.
Okay.
So in terms of next steps, now that we've done this initial study, and we have some idea of how big is big, what elements would potentially be included, Stephanie's asked us to put together a proposal to go through the next phases. And the next phase would be design development, and it's exactly as it sounds. The first thing we would do is meet with stakeholder groups, meet with the coaches, the Little League groups, potentially anybody who's using that field and who has an interest in it, and really refine the scope of work. What do these fields want to look like? We put together a very basic diagram as part of phase 0. So it wasn't intended to be a finished product. It was intended to get the ball rolling. Now we want to take that next step and understand exactly what people want to see and work with the district to incorporate those elements into a final approved design. With that approved design, we would move into a construction document phase where we would put together a set of blueprints that can be used for construction. We've talked a little bit about 2 delivery methods. One is the traditional design, bid, build, where we design it, project goes out to bid, to public bid, lowest qualified bidder is awarded the project and builds it. There's another route to potentially take, and that's through a cooperative purchasing agreement. That has some benefits as well. Use cost control. You know where you're going to be at. You can choose your vendor. You can choose your product. Depending on the ultimate scope of work, that vendor may be able to do all of the project, or they may be able to do the bulk of it. And then you would have to put certain elements out to public bid. So that process would evolve as we work through the next steps.
Design schedule.
So in terms of design schedule, Stephanie has requested, we move this forward as quick as we possibly can.
And I would like to say, like, looking at this construction schedule, beginning in 2024, with the weather that we've been having, we've discussed potentially waiting this next year and starting summer. It might make more sense to do that, because it looks like we're gonna have another El Nino. Yeah.
And I did want to touch on that exact point, is that, when you actually start construction at that time of year, you're at the mercy of the weather. You just, there's only so much you can do. And this year is the perfect example of that. There's also, this project has to be reviewed through the Division of the State Architect, who is an entity in and of themselves. They're always a pleasure to work with. And so that takes a certain pace. But once that is actually approved, it should move through construction fairly well. And actually, if we can get that approved early, a summer construction schedule is perfect for, I think, obvious reasons, the students being off campus. And the earlier we get that approved and bid ready, we can get contractors lined up before they get booked on other projects.
Something else I wanted to touch upon, that we'd be going to DSA. Like, sometimes you could just go, if it's just a field replacement, you don't have to go through DSA, but because we are going to be doing ADA upgrades, and bring those fields up to ADA code so that you could get a chair out to the field and up to the parking lot. Also bathrooms. The scope of work includes, bathrooms with a concession, so we can have snack shack that's attached. Also dugouts, and I'm just trying to think of what else that DSA would look at that's,
Yeah, they tend to look at a project in 3 phases. They look at accessibility first and foremost. So how are you going to get from a parking to the facilities? They want to look at a restroom building to make sure that people have access to a restroom building. And then they look at it from structural integrity and from a fire and life safety standpoint. So in this particular case, because we were looking to potentially replace the dugouts, that's a structure. The restroom concession building is a structure. So that's something that they would want to review, as well as just general accessibility.
Where's the,
Oh,
there it is.
There we go.
There it is. That's the money shot right there. So that's that's a conceptual design. That brings, I wish I could like point. Does this have a pointer?
All right, you got a cursor.
Oh yeah, right here. All right. So this is the current baseball field area. And this is the Cooper Field. And so we were talking about bringing this other field up onto that field. And this is all conceptual at this point. I mean, this is nothing's in stone. We haven't discussed with meeting with coaches. We do have a time, provided that this is approved today, already prearranged with Miss Carey and her site staff for I believe it's about 2 weeks from now to meet with them and start talking about programming.
I would also add, we've shown with synthetic turf right there, we've shown that you could have additional striping for different sports on there. I'm aware that the football field above currently has soccer striping as well. This comes into that next step, meeting with stakeholders. Do you want to see more soccer fields, field hockey, rugby, lacrosse, whatever it may be? Synthetic turf allows you to do that more so than maybe a traditional field in some ways. Part of that also comes into those next steps as well. When we meet with the baseball groups, do they want a traditional skinned in field? Do they want it all synthetic turf? That all comes into if we have the ability to do this or how many fields we can fit in.
Right.
But we wanted to show those diagrams just to show what's possible, not so much that it's set in stone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then, that I was talking to Christian about the ability to have 2 games going on at the same time. And there are screens that you can put up so that there could be 2 games going on at the same time. So, because that was a concern. They're portable screens that get pulled out. Oh, sorry. Hold on. Woo. Restrooms. Right there. And the concession stand right there. And then this is a pathway. Right there. Anything else you want to?
That's intended to be the accessible path of travel, at least to the fields. Now, the fields themselves, the slopes all work from that standpoint. So once you get to the field, you're okay. But that gets you to the restroom and then cuts across to the parking lot where the current, at least there's a few current accessible stalls in that area. So that's how you would access that point.
Any questions, comments?
Would the softball field have a landing field?
We could absolutely include that. We are showing bullpens at the moment, but we could absolutely include the batting cage as well.
I'm just looking at this. If I'm just looking at this, to the left of the image is where the parking lot is for the school, right? And so far right is Everglades and bottom is Turnover Boulevard down here.
Yes.
Okay, just to make sure I'm okay.
Yeah, and football field.
Up above, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Okay.
Well, thank you very much. And since this is an action item, is there a motion to approve the contract with SSA Landscape Architects?
Move to approve the contract with SSA Landscape Architects. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Item 16, consideration of future agenda items. Seeing as there are none, is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
All those in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned at 7:59 p.m.
Happy, beautiful.